All right, hello guys. So this is going to be our last Ed puzzle and recording session that we have this year. You will have 2 other assignments this week, so you'll have a total of 3 assignments this week. And after you complete those 3 assignments, the majority of you, if you have done well this year, are going to be done with biology. Now, if you struggled a little bit, and maybe some of you are in this boat. So if you have a 70% average or lower in the class, you will need to take the final, which will be administered the end of this week and into next week. I will be sending you an email, so please do check your school email because that's how I will probably be communicating with you as to how we're going to do those final exams for those of you who have a 70% or lower for the year average. For those of you who are above that, so 70% or above, you are good to go. Okay, you won't receive an email from me. If you are still looking to increase your grade, there will be some review opportunities. So if you're in that boat, please get a hold of me through email. Then we can discuss about some of those opportunities. So like if you were sitting at a C+ and you really wanted a B-, there are going to be some other opportunities end of this week, next week, that are optional. But if you're in one of those categories, please let me know, and then we can get you hooked up with what you need to be working on. Other than that, after these next 3 assignments, if you are happy with the grade that you've got, okay, and I do have your grades updated as of now, but if you're happy with the grade that you have, okay, especially after these next 3 assignments, you're done for the year. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and finish up this last little part of classification, and this part actually isn't too hard. You've probably seen these before. Most of the time students think they're kind of like a fun part, kind of almost like a puzzle when it comes to what we call dichotomous keys, which I'll just go ahead and jump right into. So we talked about cladograms last time I was with you, and you will have a cladogram practice tomorrow for your assignment. And then later on this week, you'll have a dichotomous key assignment. So a dichotomous key is a tool that's used to identify an organism using a series of paired statements. And so you'll see it's almost like there'll be 2 sentences. Okay, it might say like, does this organism have orange feathers? Or does this organism have blue feathers? Okay, so maybe you'll be looking at those paired statements and figuring out which one applies, and then you'll follow the directions that it gives you. Okay, you'll see an example of one on the next slide. So how we read dichotomous keys, we look at whatever type of organism we're trying to identify. This is used when we are trying to identify plants, especially like leaves can sometimes be used for this, and animals. So really we can use a dichotomous key for really any type of living thing. So we look at the organism, and then we look at the set of questions, and we figure out which question is true for that organism. And then we'll follow the instructions and go to the next set of questions. Okay. And then we know we've reached the end of these dichotomous keys when we have an actual name for our organism. So one of the reasons why we use dichotomous keys in the biology field is if we have an unknown living organism. Okay, maybe it's a leaf, maybe it's a piece of fungus, maybe it's a bird. Okay, so whatever we might have, if we find something and we don't know what it is, they sell books and books and books, and now a lot of them are online as well, of these dichotomous keys, where you can actually look and figure out what species you're actually looking at. Some of the dichotomous keys have also been turned into like an app form. Like I know the Audubon bird app, okay, actually uses dichotomous keys in an app form to help you figure out what kind of bird you're looking at. Okay. All right, speaking of birds, so let's go ahead and work through this dichotomous key together. So if we take a look, let's go ahead and identify bird W first. Okay. And so the one thing I notice students always try to do is they try to skip the first or second step, and they just try to like look through it through here and see which one of these works. But the thing is, these are built that you have to go to the first step first. And most of the time when students get things wrong, it's because they didn't do that. So take my advice. Even if it seems tedious after a while, always start with number 1. Okay. So if we look, 1A, the beak is relatively long and slender, or the beak is relatively stout and heavy. I agree, it's kind of long, but it is not slender. Okay, so I would say, all right, I'm gonna go with it's probably pretty like hefty, stout, and heavy. And we says go to 2. The bottom surface of the lower beak is flat and straight, or the bottom surface of the lower beak is curved. So when it's talking about the bottom surface of the lower beak, so here's our lower beak, and the bottom surface, okay, is that straight or curved? Looks pretty straight to me, so that would mean that bird W is the Geospiza bird. Ooh, sorry, okay, is the Geospiza bird. Okay. All right, if we were going to look at bird X, okay, we once again start back at number 1. The beak is relatively long and slender, or the beak is stout and heavy. Definitely not long and definitely not slender, so we're calling it stout and heavy. Go to number 2. The bottom surface of the lower beak is flat and straight. Bottom surface of lower beak is curved. That looks pretty curved to me if we look at right where my mouse is. So it says go to 3. The lower edge of the upper beak has a distinct bend, or the lower edge of the upper beak is mostly flat. Okay, so here's our upper beak. The lower edge is right where my mouse is, and that looks really flat to me, so this is the Platyspiza bird. Okay, so bird X is Platyspiza. Bird Y, alright, beak is relatively long and slender. I'd agree with that, especially looking at the other 4 birds, so right away, that's the easy one. Okay, that is going to be our Cerithidea bird. Okay. And then the last one, now sometimes if there's 4 options and there's 4 birds, like if this were a test question, you can sometimes assume that the last one's going to be that last option. However, it's always good to check because sometimes they are also tricky. Okay, and they have one of another same species. Okay. Alright, so bird Z, relatively long and slender, stout and heavy. I'm going to go with kind of stout and heavy, okay, because not long and it's not really slender either. Go to 2. Bottom surface of the beak is flat and straight, or is it curved? Bottom surface, lower beak, definitely looks curved here. Go to 3. The lower edge of the upper beak has a distinct bend, or is it flat? Okay, bottom edge, lower edge of upper beak. Okay, notice it's got that curve right there. Okay, so this one, not being sneaky, is a Camarinthecus species bird. Okay, and these are all their Latin names, which is why they sound kind of strange. Okay, so that's how you use a dichotomous key. Your third assignment for this week will be a dichotomous key. It will be a little bit longer than this one, but that's your basic principle behind it. If you guys have any questions over any of this stuff, we're going to make this one shorter than our others, let me know. And I will be getting in touch with you if you need to take the final. If you want to improve your grade and do some of the optional assignments next week, please let me know via email. Alright, other than that, hope you guys are doing well. See ya!